This episode of the Local Hustlers podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you're listening to this podcast right now, then I'm going to assume that you would also enjoy listening to audiobooks. Whether you're interested in business, history, comedy, science fiction, or romance, Audible has thousands of titles for you to choose from. We want you to try out Audible for free, so if you head to our link, you'll get a 30-day free trial and a free book. So go to audibletrial.com/localhustlerspodcast to redeem your trial today. Again, that's Audible, AUDIBLE, trial.com/localhustlerspodcast.
You're listening to the Local Hustlers Podcast, East Valley Locals. Get connected with small businesses near you and dive deep into their stories, mindset, and motives. Entrepreneurs everywhere. Get ready to be inspired by business owners, entrepreneurs, and hustlers that you can relate to and learn from. And now, your hosts, Dallin Huso and Ridge Waldberg.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Local Hustlers podcast. This week, we're super excited to be here with Julia Peixoto Peters, who was born and raised on a coffee farming family in Brazil, and who is now the owner of Peixoto Coffee, which has been named one of the 50 best coffee shops in the world. So congrats on that. That's awesome. How's it going today, Julia?
Thank you. Going really well. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, no, we're super excited to not only hear about you in the business, but also to hear about your story. I know it's super unique, and we're super excited to dive into that. So why don't you take a couple of minutes and just give us a little quick background on your life and your story?
Sure. So it all started in Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil, and I was born in a family of coffee farmers. Everyone on my paternal side of the family was a coffee farmer. My father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, like everyone had a foot at the farm in one way or another. So that's all I knew. And I didn't really know how special it was at that time. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you know, when you're a child, you don't necessarily understand, you know, how unique certain things are. And, you know, farming is what took me away from the things that I wanted to be doing. Right. On the weekends. I wanted to, you know, be traveling or visiting friends. And yet I had to go further into the countryside to be around the family and around, you know, coffee farming. So I grew up with that. My family was always working really hard to produce this amazing coffee, the best coffee that they could produce. But what I saw was that when it was time to sell the coffee, there were always, not just my family, but all the farmers were at the mercy of the commodities market. You know, farmers knew nothing about what their coffee was worth. They would just go to the buyers, the brokers of coffee, and would tender their entire crop, not really in a position to negotiate the price of their crop. So I didn't know why it was done that way, but it didn't seem fair to me that farmers would give their lives and then not be compensated enough for their product. So I don't know how much you know about the commodities market, but really has nothing to do with the quality of the product or, you know, how much it costs to produce the product. It has everything to do with market oscillation, speculation, too much supply, not enough demand, or vice versa, and really nothing to do with the product itself. So that's the backdrop of of where I was born and raised. I stayed in Brazil until I was 22 years old. For my parents, it was really important that we pursued education because that's what they knew, you know, those ups and downs of the market. Brazil was very unstable at that time. They had, you know, the first 10 years of my life, it was a military dictatorship in Brazil. So, you know, the country was very closed to trade and to what is available to people. So for my parents, you know, they knew that education was a sure thing. Yeah. Anything else you could just lose overnight and not be able to count on. So they pushed us, me and my sisters, to go pursue higher education. I went to law school in Brazil, and I was always fascinated with foreign cultures and countries. Always had this desire to go outside of the country at some point. So when I finished law school in Brazil, I applied to come to the US to do a graduate program, and I was accepted into the U of A in Tucson, of all places. I knew nothing about Arizona. Looked at the map and I saw some blue lines and I thought there was water flowing, and discovered when I got here it was just dried washes.
Yeah, dry
the water
washes.
was long gone. But yeah, so I applied to go to study international trade law in Tucson, and I got accepted. I finished the program in Tucson, and then I had an opportunity to stay in the country and apply for a job. So I did that. I joined Deutsche Post DHL, the shipping company. That was 2003, and that's where I built my career. For 13 years, I worked. I took a leave of absence to study for the bar exam in California, took the bar exam, passed, and then I started practicing law for DHL. So I practiced law for almost 13 years. Met my husband in that process. We got married, had 2 beautiful kids, really had a comfortable life that I didn't have to run away from. I had, for those looking from the outside, what seemed like a really nice life. I was traveling for work. I was, I was on a fast track to grow with the company. I had been promoted many, many times. My husband was an aerospace engineer for a big aerospace company here in the Valley. So we had 2 very stable jobs. We had a lot of a cushy life. Like we, bought a nice house and we never had to worry about finances. Right. But back in 2012, when my grandfather passed away, I came to realize that my father was the last one of his family that had stuck with coffee. Everybody else had, because of those ups and downs of the market and the challenge, had moved on or had lost everything and were not able to sustain the agricultural side of the family tradition. And it hit me, was something that I couldn't let go of, that kept finding me, that I had to do something with it. I just felt this awakening in the moment that I had to do something with my family's coffee. I had no idea what it would be, and really had no reason to go change my life upside down, right. To go pursue, right. A passion and something that had been with my family for so long. But I felt this calling that I could not dismiss, that I had to keep my family's legacy in coffee alive, and I had to, do it in a way that would make justice to the farmers, not just in my family, but also the families in my region, to be paid adequately for the product that they're giving their lives to produce, So that was my vision that I had. And I mean, it sounds a lot simpler, if I walk you through the process of making that decision and then taking steps in the direction of that vision. But it was a long process of one, convincing myself that it was the right thing to do, right? To make that change, to take that leap of faith. 2, to convince my husband that it was the right thing for our family, because of course it involved a lot of risks, right? I mean, we had 2 kids. They were toddlers at that time. It meant that we're living not 1, but 2, very stable careers to go pursue this crazy dream that I had. So, yes, it was a long process, a lot of late nights brainstorming and thinking of what we would do with this idea. And then, we, the more we talked about it, we decided that at our core, we wanted to keep Peixoto Coffee as Peixoto Coffee. We didn't want to, just sell the agricultural product and then have other roasters slap a label and call it, ABC Co. coffee, or something else that really didn't preserve the legacy of the family. So we decided, if we're going to do this, we're going to take it from the farm straight to where it's consumed. And why we're eliminating this middleman in the process that, normally touch the supply chain, but don't necessarily add value to the product. But, when you look at how coffee has been traded historically, all these people are making money and the farmer is being paid, a negligible amount for the product that they risk so much for. So we wanted to change that equity of the game and put more money in the hands of the farmer and bring that coffee directly to where it's consumed.
It's a great story. It's a great story.
Yeah, so that's how we got to Peixoto Coffee as it is today. Yeah. But of course, there's a lot more to it.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, we'll dig in there. A couple questions. So growing up on the farm, you had responsibilities then to help your dad, help your grandpa, help your uncles in the coffee farming.
Well, so let me clarify this. I didn't grow up in a farm. So our farm was nearby and we went multiple times a week. But I grew up in a small town that is near the farm. So yes, so over the weekends, it was very common for us to go. We'd stay with our grandparents, with our families, and then my father would go to the farm and spend the day, checking in the harvest or, checking in with the folks there, seeing what was going on, what needed to be done. So yes, it was a big part of our lives.
Yeah. So, most young kids don't enjoy hard work, at the younger age. And then later on, they look back and reflect on that, and it's a great, a great foundation that it creates for them. Sounds like you had some of that. Did you ever envision yourself in the coffee business as a child, or is that like, no, that's something that I'm not going to have anything to do with?
I did not. And in fact, my parents discouraged us from being involved in it because, the part that they know about coffee is the farming side, which is like with any farming. It's hard. It's, it's a lot of giving and very little taking. I've never met a rich farmer. And, when you meet someone who's rich, it's usually from something else and not from the farming, right? The farm is on the side. So yes, my parents didn't want that for us. They wanted stable careers. And that's why they pushed us in the direction of, professional careers that we could rely on. My mom's a very strong woman. She always encouraged us to be independent and to have our own careers and not have to rely on our husbands and spouses to make a living. So she always pushed us in that direction. And my father, when I told them that I was leaving my corporate legal career to go work with coffee, he said, don't do it. He highly discouraged me from making this leap of faith because he, from his experience, he's known coffee to be very risky. One thing that his mother always said, and he repeated to me, was that like in coffee, you go to bed one night with money in your bank account and you wake up with nothing next day. You never know how the next day is going to be in coffee. And I don't want that for you. So that was one of the challenges that I had in the process too. Like, should I listen to that? I feel so strongly about making it work in a way that my father doesn't know about. No. He hasn't experienced this side of coffee.
Right. So had you not stepped in, what's the traditional path for the family farmer? Is it just getting bought out by big corporate coffee companies that are buying out the family farms that Peixoto is in Brazil? Would that have been the end result had you not come in and
That's one of the possible paths for, if a farmer doesn't have someone to continue their path and in coffee farming. Typically, sale is an attractive option because then you can get money, right, for your property. And if your property is fruitful like ours is, it's covered the coffee trees that are highly productive, then they can make more money that way with a sale than with having to maintain the practice. So another common thing in Brazil is for farmers to lease the land. So they lease the land for someone who has, multiple operations all over the area or that specific region. And then, they pay you in numbers of bags of coffee harvested. So you have that sure commitment of receiving, I don't know, 200 bags of coffee a month or whatever it is, and that you can count on that money, right? Depending on what the market is doing. So there's different options, but for me, you know, I wanted our family to stay in our family. My grandfather was a big figure in this region where he coined this whole area of Brazil, Boa Vista, which means beautiful view. And, you know, portions of his farm are no longer in the family already. They have already been lost or sold, traded for, you know, more immediate needs that the families had. So, you know, I could see that already being lost in the family. So I wanted to preserve some of what we had in place for the long haul. So, and that's how we thought of creating the demand for the product here so that we can keep the farming side of things going in Brazil.
Love it. When it came to the farm, whether it was you know, working on the weekends or watching your dad and your grandpa work, do you feel like you learned a lot about, you know, working hard, diligence, those sorts of traits that have helped you later on in life with your education and now opening up your own business?
Yeah, I think that certainly laid a really nice foundation. Like, I'm a girl from the countryside.
Yeah.
That's still a big part of me. You know, I love the land. I love nature. I love, you know, hard work. I'm not afraid to work hard. And that's why, you know, when I consider, I'm trading this cushy life, you know, where I'm traveling business class and, you know, staying in nice hotels for a life that is unknown. I don't know what kind of work I'm going to have to do, you know, and a lot of times, yes, I need to wash dishes. I need to help clean, and I'm okay. It's my business. It's one of my kids. The way I see is that, you know, it's part of my family, and I'll do what it takes no matter what it is. So certainly having come from those humble beginnings and origins have helped frame you know, what I prioritize and what I want out of life.
Talk to us about, so you went to law school in Brazil to become a lawyer. Why did you decide to go down that path? What have been some of the pros and cons of starting off as a lawyer before going into being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so because of the background that I painted for you guys, like growing up in Brazil and being so unstable economically, you know, my parents pushing us to pursue professional careers, there's a handful of careers that, you know, were certain in that environment, and being a lawyer was one of them. Being a doctor, being, you know, an engineer maybe was another one. So I chose to be a lawyer because it seemed like a very secure job and career for someone. But I've always been a creative person. I remember even like in my childhood always having like, you know, an acute sense of creativity and wondering and imagination and hoping that I would be able to somehow find, you know, a mesh between the two. And, you know, a lot of times in my legal career, I felt it was very stifling and, you know, very boxed in what I could do and how I could behave and how far I could stretch certain things. So the legal career gave me a lot, you know, on this path, and I am grateful. I don't dismiss, you know, that choice at all. Honestly, if had that I made that choice, I wouldn't be here, right? So it really, at the time, you know, seemed like I was going in one direction, but it was really just, you know, serving as a springboard to launch me into another direction. So having had that career, not only it brought me here, it enabled me to meet my husband, it enabled me to have this, you know, very stable job and career that allowed me to have the means to make that choice later in life, to relinquish certain things. And everything comes in two sides, right? You're always gaining something and then relinquishing something. It's a give and take in any decision in life. But it positioned me to make that decision and know with certainty what I wanted versus, you know, what I had already lived behind me.
That's cool. No, I like that you bring that up. We just talked about it on a recent episode, just how it just depends on how you look at it, because you could have been like, oh, I just wasted, you know, this many years of my life being a lawyer when that wasn't what I was meant to do. But if you didn't go down that path, it wouldn't have led you to where you are now. So just taking those opportunities that come in life doesn't end up meaning that that's where we're going to be for the rest of our life, but it can often lead us to places that we'd have no idea where it would take us.
Absolutely. I always say, like, there's such beauty in detours,
Yeah.
right? We don't know at the time when you're taking the long road, or, you know, when you feel like you're lost doing something that sucks your soul, that, you know, doesn't give you that level of gratification or even financial compensation, right? That we can't see, why am I doing what I'm doing? There's always come back. And I think that if you can appreciate that detour, then you will, you know, you appreciate where you land after the detour. And I think it's really a mindset.
For sure. Appreciating the detours. I like that. I'm curious to kind of hear, you know, where you were at in your head when you first came up with the thought that, hey, I want to do something with the coffee farm, and how long of a process was that? Was that an internal battle and a struggle to make that decision to leave your job? Was it a fast decision, or did it take a certain amount of time to decide that that's what you wanted to do?
It was a process. So, yes, nothing happens overnight, and especially, you know, big decisions, big leaps of faith. I mean, you know, it's always easier to look back. And when you tell the story, people think like, oh, it all happened so fast for her.
It just worked out great.
Yeah, exactly. She lucked out, right? I mean, we all hear those kinds of things. Like, she was in the right place at the right time. It's like, not so quick. There is a lot of internal struggles that went into it and still do on a daily basis. Yes, I mean, that decision didn't come lightly to us. I mean, we're leaving behind a lot of things. We're leaving behind, you know, what others, like including my parents, would say, like, but anyone wants to have the life you have, you know. Everyone wants that kind of pay you have, that kind of lifestyle you have, but you know, it didn't give me what my purpose, my soul was calling for. So I knew in my core I was doing the right thing. Like, I never hesitated, or like when I heard people question my decision, like, it didn't push me back in questioning myself. Like, I always felt very sure-footed in where I was. But of course, like, there was a process that had to unfold, and things take time, right? So even when I started Peixoto, so we started Peixoto in January of 2015.
Okay.
I didn't quit my job until 2016.
Okay.
So I kept my job for a year and a half after opening, because I had benefits. I had, you know, I had a paycheck every 2 weeks. So I had to build the structure, build people, you know, to be able to run the business. And I was really working 2 jobs at that time. I was, you know, working full time as a lawyer, and then I would go in and check in and have my meetings and, you know, set the stage for the week with my employees. But I've had great people in my path, and that's where I feel like there's when there's alignment with your purpose, then you will find those people that are going to join you in your mission and will help you get there. So we've always had great people that rally around us, and my husband was a big part of it as well. He actually quit his job before I did. That was not the plan, but he was a roaster at the time, so he was, with his engineering background, he was roasting the coffee for us at the time. So he was needed in the physical space of the business more so than I was. I could do what I had to do in the background.
Behind the scenes.
So that was again another detour that worked out in the end. But yeah, it was a long journey.
And looking back, is that do you recommend how you did it, where you kept your job as an attorney and started the business? Or looking back, do you think that you would have been better served to just jump all in all at once and do it? What would be your advice for somebody who has an idea right now in their head, but they have this career that pays well, has benefits, etc., in terms of easing in, doing both at the same time, as opposed to just going all in with their idea?
Well, I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think that it depends on the circumstances. In my case, we had 2 young children, and we wanted to build the business on our own without bringing in outside investment. So having that regular paycheck come in for a year and a half was certainly helpful in helping us achieve that goal, right? So I'm always a big picture person. If it helps me with the big picture, the short-term pain that you may need to go through of having 2 jobs and working crazy hours and giving to so many people that need you in so many different directions, I think it's worth. So as long as it helps you with that big picture vision, I think there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times people can have internal struggles with that, and I got to that point as well where I felt like I want to be in my business. I created this incredible business that is amazing. Everyone loves my place and everyone's hanging out there all day long except for me. I can't be there, as other people can. So at some point, and more so than that, was even like, I want to use all this time and energy that I have to put into my business. So I felt very ready to channel all this energy into my business versus having to split into different directions. So, but that moment came and I felt ready. And then I felt, it's yet another leap, because first one was starting the business. We put all our savings into the business to get started, and had no idea how well it was going to be received. Second one was actually leaving the job. Yeah. So it's a series of leaps, right, that you make on behalf. And those are not the last leaps that we've taken. We've taken many other leaps since. So it's a constant dance of stopping for a moment and then leaping forward. It never ends.
Did you have, before getting started, do you have a set timeline, as in like when you were going to leave your job and jump in full time? Or was it going to be like, once we reach a certain amount of revenue, or once we're this busy? Like, what was the deciding factor for you when you knew that it was the best time to leave your job and jump in full time? Yeah,
and I think that, part of our business plan, we looked a lot into numbers and figuring out what the revenue had to be for both of us to leave our jobs. And the truth is that, our business was wildly popular from the moment we opened our doors, and we hoped for that, but we didn't know that would be the case, right? We had no experience in the industry. We're coming from the outside. So we hoped for that, didn't know how it was going to be. We blew our projections out of the water in both directions. So when you sell a lot more, you need to bring in a lot more people, a lot more help, a lot more resources as well. So it kept changing, right? I thought I could leave in 3 to 4 months, and then we brought a lot more in, but we have a lot more expenses now, because we started with 3-4 employees, and then we were at 12 employees.
Wow.
So yes, it kept becoming an elusive goal to work towards, and that's why I was able to do within a year and a half. I think it was more like a year and a half after we opened. So yes, it didn't happen according to plan. It was more of just assessing the situation.
And it's okay to do that and make those adjustments along the way, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. You have to. There's no other way.
Do you spend more time cleaning your pool than you spend swimming in it? Then call Flamingo Pools today. Flamingo Pools is your go-to swimming pool maintenance and repair company in the East Valley. Whether it's weekly maintenance, repairs, green to cleans, or one-time cleanings, Flamingo Pools will take care of you. Honest, reliable, and innovative. Just a few of the many good things Flamingo Pools customers have to say about them. Ask them about their mineral treatment, which will keep your chemical levels down, allowing you to have a healthier bathing experience. At Flamingo Pools, they know that your pool was made to be enjoyed, so let them handle the rest. Check them out at azflamingopools.com or give them a call at 480-422-6013. Mention this podcast and you'll get your first month of maintenance completely free. That's azflamingopools.com and 480-422-6013.
Well, tell us about the process of getting started in terms of, research. Is there a lot of license and permits that you have to do for a business like this? Just the hiring process of just getting everything ready for opening day. What was that like?
Yeah, so a lot of research went into it. My husband is an engineer, so he likes to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, and not willing to commit until he can see, that the numbers work. So there's a lot of research that went into it. But like I said, we're coming from the outside. We didn't have any experience on food and beverage and coffee shop and retail, anything. There's a couple of aspects to our business which are important for me to mention. So we had the retail side of the business, which is the shop, right? We also have the wholesale side of the business, which happens on the background, where we roast in larger quantities and deliver coffee to local businesses as well. So big and small local businesses. And then we have the e-commerce side of our business as well. So it's almost like having three different lines of business, right, working in parallel. So there's completely different research that went into each of those aspects. We started with retail, but then people started asking us to buy our coffee wholesale right off the bat, and we couldn't say no to that. That really was our ticket to us being free to quit the job, to grow the business. So we kept taking those wholesale requests and roasting from our coffee shop, which I don't know if you have been to the shop, but it's a very small space. It's only 1,400 square feet, right? And we're doing production out of there. And then eventually we had to move that somewhere else. So we now have a bigger production space. But yes, it was just a very fast pace of growing and finding the right people for the job, minute to minute as we're growing. So we haven't really stopped until the pandemic hit. And, it just felt like a really fast pace of living, of growing the business for the first 5 years when the pandemic came. And then we're like, okay, it's another story.
Yeah.
We'll jump into the pandemic in a little bit, but with the decision to wholesale your coffee, do you allow private label, or do you want to maintain that Peixoto brand and name recognition as you wholesale?
That's a really good question. So it is our preference to sell Peixoto Coffee as Peixoto Coffee, because we have a lot of skin in this game, right? I mean, a lot of people start a business when you put your name on the wall, and it's such a unique name, right, that people recognize you for. It becomes like a really high bar for you to maintain. And so we put in a lot of effort into building this brand that is Peixoto Coffee, maintaining the quality of the product, right? And we started with 0 followers, 0 customers. We built this huge network of people that come and buy our coffee, drink our coffee, order our coffee online. So we want to maintain that. I'm very careful with our brand, with our partnerships. I feel like there has to be a synergy and an alignment, a vision for it to be successful for both sides, right? Otherwise, so we do some white labeling. That's what it's called in the industry, but we feel like we can help people more when we put our name on the coffee, because it becomes truly a partnership and win-win. Like, it's good for you, it's good for us. Like, we will partner very closely with our wholesale partners in a level that it's really hard to find in our industry, because we want them to succeed. They're carrying our name, our family name. So I want them to be as successful as we are. So that tends to work better for us, but that's not to say that we wouldn't consider a white labeling situation.
Right.
What is the process from, the coffee bean from the farm to get to you guys? What's kind of like that whole process of how that works?
It's a very long journey from crop to crop, like I say. So coffee is a plant, it's a tree, and it's a fruit. It's a cherry, right? So coffee in its natural form is a cherry. And what we drink are the seeds inside of the cherries that get dried and then roasted. So we're dealing with fresh fruit at the farm level.
Okay.
So coffee is an annual plant. It only blossoms and bears fruit once a year. So harvest happens once a year for us. In our case, in Brazil, it's between June and August. So we've always, part of our mission as a business was to be a part of this harvest season, be there with my family, harvesting coffee, helping them, and then choosing the lots of coffee that we want to bring into the US. And we've done that every year except for last year, 2020. But so that's the harvest season. So coffee is heavy, it's sticky, it's really temperamental to produce. You can lose entire crops if you don't process it right once you're drying your coffee. So because we start with fresh fruit, you need to dry it to a point where it's stable, right? So that it can be exported, it can be bagged and stay unperished for a year until the next harvest comes in. So harvest is about a 3-month process, and then we choose our lots of coffee. And from the beginning, we've always wanted to bring it directly, right, without relying on this middleman in the process. So we started small. We brought in 100 bags of coffee, had no idea how our consumption is going to be. And then next year we increased almost threefold what we brought in, and then year 3 we increased sixfold, and it just kept growing, the volume of coffees that we're bringing in. And in 2018 we became importers of coffee as well. So it was the last piece that was still in place, where we're relying on a third party to do the importation for us. We became importers, so we have achieved what I like to call vertical integration, right, in our model, where coffee is produced by my family, it's imported by the Peixoto family, it arrives here 30 days after being on the water on a boat. The containers arrive here at our warehouse in Chandler. We break the seal of the container, unload the bags of coffee, roast our coffees, and then distribute to our shop or to other places where the coffee is going to be consumed. So it's monumental, the effort. It's like we're dealing with governments, we're dealing with ocean vessels, right, and bookings that are not always available and timely, and we're dealing with the harvest being ready on time, being to the quality that we want. There's so many unknowns, so many variables in the process. So from the moment that coffee is harvested and the coffee gets here, it's about 4 months.
Wow.
And that's when most people in our industry, roasters, would start the process, right? They get a hold of a coffee that is already here, they start roasting. That's where they start the work. For us, we feel like 80% of our work is done by the time it gets here. So we're just pushing to the finish line once it gets here.
Wow. Now, from a financial standpoint, is it cheaper to do it all in-house, or does it cost you guys a lot more money to go through that entire process? Whereas, another company said they just start with the roasting, so 80% of the work has already been done for them. What's the financial aspect like there?
So because of our model, where, the idea is that because we flipped the supply chain, right, from being horizontal to being vertical, there are savings that happen in the process, right? We don't have to pay these people to flip the coffee, essentially. That's what they do. They buy very low and then they flip for a profit. So we don't have to pay these people to do that. So there's savings that are derived in the process. So our mission is to put that money in the hands of the farmer so that they can improve their farming practices. They can invest in equipment. They can invest in labor. They can, build more sustainable practices.
Yeah.
So year after year, and that's one of the critical things of our model is to send money back to the farm so that they can invest in better coffees and better practices and be compensated for all the risks that they undertake in producing coffee. So like I said, you can lose your entire crop if the rains come at the wrong time, right? Because they're completely reliant on the weather for harvesting and drying our coffees. So they can lose entire crops. There's theft, there's diseases that can, wipe entire areas, entire farms of coffee if the farmers don't do the right thing. So we believe that farmers deserve the money so that they can, minimize the risks of production. And at the same time, we bring a coffee that is, the highest quality that we can produce from our family farm, and that normally would be sold for higher here for a competitive price. So what we have in our hands, it's, and what we sell to our partners or wholesale partners and at the shop is a really high quality coffee that would normally cost more in other places, but that we bring to our market at a reasonable price.
That's awesome. Do your customers know that you guys go through that whole process yourself? Like from a marketing standpoint, is that something that they like to see, how you're supporting the farmers? Or is it more about because you do it all yourself, like that there is a better quality taste and they just know that, they don't know why, but they just know that it tastes better and that's why you have so many, followers and supporters?
We would like everyone to know why, why we're here. And because that's, to us, our why is why we did what we did, right? Why we left those stable jobs, right? To keep this legacy alive and do something that hadn't been done before. So I would like everyone to know, but the reality is that it's really hard to reach everyone in that short interaction. Some people want the story, some people just want a quick cup of coffee and
For sure.
like, no, don't have time for that. So we have that.
Yeah.
We can serve quick coffee, delicious coffee, and some people come back because of the taste of the coffee, because of the friendliness of our baristas, and our space is beautiful. So there's so many reasons why people come. We would like people to know the story. I think it would give them an extra reason, to keep coming back. And that's usually, what people tell us. Like, you guys are so different than everybody else. What you do is so unique. I think that we are in a moment in time, in Arizona, in the food and beverage scene, where people are craving. They want to know where products come from, and I want people to be questioning, because I think there's a lot of layers of marketing sometimes that are really hard to penetrate and really understand. Right? It's not just putting a cute label on a product. There's more to it. There's who's the farmer? How much was he paid? Where is this product from? What quality it is? So there's so much more information that is underneath. So I think people are starting to question that and expect that about the product that you're serving versus just making a cute drink or selling a product that is visually pleasing.
For sure.
I love your commitment to the farmer. Farming is challenging. Our family comes from a farming background, and it is challenging. You are subject to nature so many times, the things that are out of your control. You mentioned rainfall or lack of rainfall, temperatures changing, disease coming in, etc. And I really love that you invest back in the farmer and give them a reward for their work. My question is, what are some specific things, there are things that are out of your control, like climate and temperature, location, like being where you're at in Boa Vista, I think that's what you call it.
That's right.
You can't just duplicate that in Chandler, Arizona and grow your coffee farm here, right? So there are things that are out of your control, such as location there in Brazil. What are some things in your control that farming can influence the flavor profile of the coffee bean that really sets you apart?
That's a very good question and something that we work really hard for as well. So, coffee being an agricultural product, right? Being a fruit, we've all experienced this. Sometimes you eat a banana and it tastes like nothing. Sometimes you eat a banana and it's juicy and it's like, wow, it's the best banana I've ever eaten. So fruit is a living thing, right? And coffee is no different. Coffee is a living, breathing product. So because of the where it's grown. Like coffee needs certain elevation, right, to be grown. You can grow coffee close to the sea level, but it's not going to taste any good, right? So in order for coffee to mature in a certain way and pack all those flavors that we want to taste in coffee, it's important to ensure certain growing conditions. So elevation is one of them. Latitude, where you are in relation to the equator, is very important. We are below the Tropic of Capricorn in Brazil, so we have those seasons. Like we're not close to the equator where it's always hot and humid. We have wet seasons and then we have dry seasons in Brazil as well. And rain patterns, so important. How much the fruit develops and the seed develops is largely dependent on the rain patterns that you receive. So having rain at the right time is critical to the full development of the cherry and development of the flavors as well. Then once you harvest, and there's a number of ways that you can influence the flavor profile of coffee. So coffee, even more so than wine, has a lot of different chemical compounds, right, and acidities and sweetness compounds that can come together in different ways. So there's endless ways for a coffee flavor notes and profiles to come together in the cup. So farmers can influence the flavor notes of the coffee by the way they harvest, by the way they process coffee, by the way they ferment coffee. So for coffee, like cacao, is always fermented, right? So the fermentation process is what releases the seed from the fruit. And that fermentation process can set the coffee in one direction of wonderful complexities. Like, once you start to get into coffee, you start to notice acidities. Like there's berry acidity, there's citrus acidity, there's stone fruit acidity. So you can start to pick on these notes, and a large or one of the main ways to influence those the flavor profile of the coffee is through the fermentation and processing that happens after harvest. So we put a lot of emphasis in that as well at our farm. Brazil historically was known for quantities of coffee and not necessarily the quality of the coffee. And the coffee now in specialty industry, people want to taste unique notes, right? That showcase where the coffee is from, what kind of varietal it is, what kind of cherry it is, what kind of processing was applied to the coffee. So we work with my family to develop certain flavor profiles that we want our coffees to have. So we always want one big lot of like very easy to drink, smooth and sweet chocolate notes coffees, and that's our familia. We call our familia is our main lot of coffee that is our best seller at the shop. And then we have our honey process where we depulp the cherries and then the seeds dry with the pulp around, so it imparts some sweetness, but it also imparts a lot of clarity in the notes that you pick on that coffee. So that's another coffee we have. And then we have highly experimental lots that we do in very small quantities, and those coffees we go pretty wild on those. My husband brings in his scientific mind and engineering background to develop some fermentation experiments that we want to do with those coffees. And we've had coffees that have drank really high on the specialty scale because of those complexities that we're able to bring out. So it's really incredible to see like how you can bring out different flavors on the same fruit, right? Depending on how you treat that after it's harvested.
And that was my next question, because it sounds like there's so many steps to the process. So there's so many things that you could tweak to change the flavor. So it sounds like you guys do a lot of experimenting to test out, slightly different flavors and notes here and there. That sounds like, is that a fun part of the process for you guys?
It is, yes. It's really fun. We're not able to do in 2020, but like I said, we had been building up year after year, these experiments to see like, okay, now we know what role this type of microorganism plays in coffee, because coffee always has microorganisms that are helping the fermentation,
Right.
being a fruit. So then we build upon that the next year. So nothing comes fast, because it's an yearly process. It requires a lot of patience, right? Because it's just the cycle of nature.
Yeah.
But we've been building upon those experimentations year after year.
That's awesome. I'm curious to hear, in terms of marketing and finding customers, what are some things you guys have done to attract customers, especially starting off, like when people don't know about you and don't know who you are? What do you do to get people to come into the shop and try it for the first time?
Okay, we haven't done that in a long time. I'm setting pandemic aside
Right.
for the purpose of this answer. We can talk about that later. But from the beginning, like I said, people were so hungry for a coffee experience in our community. So we came to downtown Chandler, right? That's where our shop is. We live just down the street. That is our community. My husband and I wanted to be where we call home, where where we take our kids out for dinner to open our shop. So people just came to us, and from the beginning we relied a lot on like social media to build our name, to build our brand. Never really paid for marketing on social media because of the industry we're in. I feel like in the food and beverage, it can be tricky to pay, right? Because it can look inauthentic, or just not genuine in your message, right? If you have those sponsored posts hitting you all the time. So we've always and this is one area that I have a responsibility for, which is marketing. We've always chosen to, let's make this experience the best we can, and that's how we market. Right? It's by offering something that is not done anywhere else. We're always pushing the boundaries on the types of drinks that we serve, right? That, are only here for a short while, and, let's offer an exceptional experience when people are here, in terms of the quality of the beverage, in terms of the uniqueness of the experience that we offer, the space, the quality of service that we have in our space with our baristas, who are really the ones carrying that story day to day, and living the Peixoto vision. So that has been our choice, to just put those dollars into the experience itself versus setting it aside for marketing, which may or may not come back to us. So we've built the network of customers we have organically, and we still get people every day that walk through our doors and say, oh, it's my first time here, and it was like, wow, really? Okay. Welcome in. And we're always excited to share this story.
That's cool. And when it comes to customers and competition, I guess what's your view on that? Because there's obviously some very big brand, well-known coffee shops. Do you feel like you're fighting for those customers, or do you feel like you offer such a different and unique product compared to some of the bigger retail chain coffee places, that it's completely different customers that are going there versus coming to you guys?
Yes, I think that we shouldn't be worried about the small competition, right? Like the smaller shops, independent shops. I think that our competition really is the big names, because there's so many untapped customers that don't even know about you, or don't even know that their experience could be so much better. Their coffee could taste so much more pure than what it does, and what they're really tasting sugar, and not the flavor notes in this beautiful beverage. So that should be, and it is, the competition. There's a lot of people still to be converted, to know right about that. But there's a lot of new shops. There's a lot of independently owned coffee shops, and I think there's room for everyone. I believe that people are gonna drink coffee in different places, and they should. If you're on one part of town, you drink coffee where you are. I think that if people they really want the Peixoto experience, they'll come to us. They'll come back ever so often and patronize us. I feel like there's enough people. I think that the key is really focusing on teaching people education, so that they can understand the differential of specialty coffee and coffees that honor the farmers, that honor the origin of the coffee versus just serving a cup of coffee. So I think that should be the focus of our industry as a specialty coffee industry.
I love that mindset. Well, we've talked about the pandemic a couple of times, so I do want to quickly dive into that before we have to close up. And just in my head, I imagine people go to a coffee shop for coffee just as much as they go for the interaction, and it's sort of a hangout place and a place to meet up. So I'm imagining that COVID had some sort of impact on you guys in that way. So I'm just curious to hear what sort of positive or negative impact COVID has had on you guys as a business, and what you guys have done since then to pivot.
Yeah, so COVID has had a huge impact on us. We were closed for 8 months.
Wow.
Last year, so we had to pivot very quickly and bring up a website where people could order online and pick up in front of our shop. We have an alleyway right next to our shop, and that was a lifesaver. We created this curbside pickup model where people would meet us in the alley, bring the goods to the alley, but not inside of our shop. So yeah, we had to adapt very quickly, and we did. Our customers, at that point, we were concerned of what was yet to come, and our customers showed up so strongly for us. We had, buy 3 bags, get 1 free, buy 4, get 2 free. And, people really stocked up on bags and, came and bought huge volumes of things to support us and to keep us in business. And it was so humbling to see that, that all that work for 5 years really build something that can endure the ups and downs of life, of business ownership. And I believe that that was probably the biggest challenge that we faced, and anybody else in business, if you have been in business long enough, where you have built something and then something like this so unexpected comes, that has been our biggest challenge. But I also believe it has been our biggest lesson in adaptability, in resilience, in community. So I think that we're coming out of it stronger than we could ever imagine, and we're starting to see some of that, right? So we stayed closed, we reopened in November. We're still partially open, we're not back to where we were before, but our sales, our customers continue to show up daily and support us very strongly. So we're geared to come out of it very soon and be stronger than we were before.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like a lot of that has to do with the support of your customers, and they've since you've been loyal to them for so long, and now when businesses are being hurt, it sounds like you kind of returned the favor and been loyal to you guys throughout this whole process. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely a relationship there in place that is foundational to this. And yes, when we put out, call to actions, and we saw some of that throughout the pandemic, we were closed. So we decided, why not brew coffee and take to the hospitals, right? Where all these nurses are working extremely long hours, are doing heroic efforts to see all the patients that are coming in. So we brewed gallons and gallons, dozens of gallons of coffee and donated to hospitals. So every time we come out and say, hey, we need your help to achieve this goal of helping our community, people come strongly for us, right? They show their support so unconditionally. So we built a really good two-way relationship that, yes, we're there for them. We continue to serve through the toughest times. And, we heard people say wow, your coffee kept me alive during the last year. Your coffee kept me going the days that I didn't want to leave bed, and had no motivation to do anything in my life. And those moments are really, that...
That's why you're in business. Right?
It's the why. Yes,
the why.
It's when it's the impact you have on people's lives, and whether it's our customers here on this side of the hemisphere, whether it's the farmers at the at our farm or neighboring farmers that say, I've never been paid this much for my coffee my whole life. You see this 80-year-old man say, this is the first time that I have some extra to invest on something else, right? Or to buy a better truck. So it's the impact at the end of the day that really makes it all worthwhile in business.
No, that's great. In terms of the flavor profiles, we spent a lot of time on that, and people come to a shop not only for the taste but also for the social experience that we talked about. What do you do to help your baristas really understand what the Peixoto legacy is so that they represent that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So from the beginning, we didn't want to be a place where people come and go quickly or for home. This is just a job, right? We've always wanted them to find a place where they feel supported, where they feel they can grow if they want to, where they feel like they're treated with integrity, that they have, that they're doing something that is important. They're not just making a cup of coffee. Yeah. They're touching people's lives. They're serving something that, could be the reason why someone got out of bed on that day. So there's it's a cultural thing that we have, and some people will come and won't be a good fit, and that's okay. It can't be for everyone, and not everyone can be for us also. I think that it's one of the hard lessons in business, right? Yeah. It's just knowing what's for you and what's not. But the people who are with us and who have stayed with us, I have employees who have been there since we opened our doors 6 years ago, which is very unusual in food and beverage. Wow. We treat them as they're part of our family. We call them our familia. We've done that for 6 years. We invest in them, and it's a constant choice. Everything are choices in life, right? When we have a little extra money as a business, we decided, well, we want to pay health insurance to our people because we want them to be able to live without fear of, what if I have to go to the doctor and don't have savings to pay for a treatment. So we paid for health insurance, or and this is a kind of a long conversation. I don't know if you want to get into that, but like last year when I saw the writing on the wall of the pandemic, both Jeff and I removed ourselves financially from the business. Jeff is still doing consulting work. My husband, for the company that he worked for before, I did that for 7 months last year because we wanted to keep everyone employed. We didn't let go anyone in our business. So in everything that we do, we want to build something that is here for the long run. We're building a team, a business, a culture for legacy, and not just for short-term rewards. So I think
that's true familia.
True familia, yes. So it's something we worked really hard for from the beginning because we want people to feel like they belong. It's not my family farm. When they tell the story, they say, oh, this coffee comes from our family farm. It's their family farm as well. That's where the coffee comes from. They are Peixoto. And it's not just a slogan. We live and breathe those values with everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. And I think that carries through the customer experience as well.
Wow. Yeah, people talk about, treating employees as family, but that's taking action on treating employees as families. And I'm sure that comes around so much in terms of the way that they treat their job and the importance that they feel when they're working, and how that's passed on to the customers then. And so things like that seem like a cost, like providing health insurance for them. I think it probably ends up having a financial benefit for you guys anyways, in terms of, how happy they are, how happy the customers are, and then also not having the employee turnover that otherwise you'd have if they didn't feel like they were being taken care of and cared for. So it's awesome to see that you guys are doing that and really taking care of your people like that.
Yeah, we don't really know how to do any differently. It's just, part of, because of the foundation of the business. We're building this not for to sell out 5-10 years from now. We're building this to keep a legacy alive. So I wouldn't be serving that goal by by paying as little as I can to my
Right.
employees, or cutting corners when it comes to the quality of the ingredients that we use in our coffee. So, I mean, I wouldn't be serving this long-term goal of building legacy by taking shortcuts
Yeah.
throughout. So we do what's right, whether it's seen or not, or appreciated or not. We do what's right because what's right for us to build this vision of legacy.
That's awesome. Quickly want to talk on your drinks before we kind of close up here, because I love following you guys on Instagram and seeing just some of the seasonal flavors you come up with. And it's not just, one syrup in this drink. It's such a unique blend of flavors that you put into an already unique coffee. So could you just kind of talk a bit about, some of those specialty flavors and specialty drinks that you guys offer on a seasonal basis?
Absolutely. Yeah. So from the beginning, we started offering, we had a very basic menu,
Yeah.
right? With lattes, cappuccinos, mochas, and espresso and cold brew. We wanted to bring in new flavors as a way to get people to try new things and to expand their palates, right? I mean, because we feel like our experience is a little bit of an expansion already, so why not build up on that and allow people to experience flavors they haven't experienced before. So we started seasonal menus. This was 6 years ago, well before, it was commonplace. And
Right.
in most places, we started introducing seasonal menus with every season, and we have done so consistently over the last 6 years.
Wow.
Every season, we have 5-6 drinks that are highly elaborate and beautiful presentation introduced to our community. And it's another area that I feel responsible for, that is under my responsibility, because I like culture. I like unique things. I don't want to get the same thing that you can get everywhere else,
Yeah.
or that is just like a pump of this, a pump of that. I didn't grow up with that. To me, like, there's real ingredients. We use real ingredients. We make everything in house. So all the syrups we have, like, we're starting with fresh fruits, fresh spices, fresh herbs, and then we cook everything in house or blend everything in house and make unique syrups. So every season, it's a joint effort of my team of coming together and brainstorming ideas, themes, and the direction that we're going to go. But I always have certain requirements for that. And I'm not the easiest leader always, but I always have challenges, right, that I want to think about. I want it to be unique.
Yeah.
I want it not to have been done before. I don't want an idea that we're simply picking from somebody else and changing slightly and then introducing. It needs to be created from within and not from the outside.
Yeah.
So they have to come up with fresh ideas, and it needs to be a lot of times we use Brazilian flavors, Latin flavors. This last menu was about traveling the world. Since we can't go anywhere during the pandemic, then we're taking people to faraway destinations of Morocco and Persia and France. So we just like introduce all these different flavors. So I always have this list of requirements that it needs to be unique, it needs to be made never made before, it needs to be made with fresh ingredients, and it needs to be delicious. So that's the process that we navigate through to create the specialties menu. So we're already working on the summer, and we have some of our specials that have been offered over the last 6 years that people love and continue to ask for. We have a coconut cold brew that people go, absolutely, coconuts for, and they keep asking, so we'll bring that back, of course. But yes, we try to always stay at the forefront of the ideas.
That's awesome. And out of all the drinks that you guys have ever offered, what would you say is your favorite, personal favorite?
Well, I mean, I am a black coffee drinker.
Okay.
That's what I drink on a day-to-day basis. I make a pour over. That's what I enjoy. I like coffee, to taste the notes of the coffee without any additives, without any anything that could potentially detract from it. So that's what I normally drink. I like to drink my family coffee. I'm partial to it, of course, because that's the one I know most of. But I can appreciate all these other coffees. We have beautiful coffees that we bring directly from other farmers as well. And I know all the hard work that goes into that. So I can appreciate those high quality complexities in coffee. As far as specialty drinks, right now I'm really enjoying the Moroccan latte because it's a beautiful combination of florals and sweetness and just really unique and refreshing at the same time. So I would say the Moroccan right now. But I've had different favorites throughout the various seasons of the business.
Love it, love it. Well, Julia, I feel like we could go on for another hour just asking questions about you and the business and just continue to learn from you. But we know we have to let you get back to the rest of your day. We know how busy you are. So as we're closing up here, we've got a quick little game that we're going to play with you. And so how it's going to go is we have a list of 20 questions we're going to ask, and you've got a minute on the clock to see how many of them you can answer. And we'll just score you up against the rest of our guests we've had on and see how you do.
Okay, I have a feeling I'm not going to score so highly, but that's okay.
And you can go ahead and get us
Pressure's
started.
on.
In 3, 2, 1.
Your dream vacation?
Right now, I really want to go to the Caribbean. I've been dreaming of being on the white sand and blue waters. So,
Okay. First thing you'd buy if you won $1 million?
a farmhouse. I'll build myself a farmhouse.
Your favorite hobby?
Yoga. I practice daily.
If there was an Olympic competition for everyday activities, what activity would you have a good chance at winning a medal in?
Oof. Parenting?
The song you've been jamming to lately?
The song?
Yeah.
I'm a child of the 80s, so I love 80s songs. I would say, I don't know, like it's not coming to me a name, but 80s, anything 80s.
If you lived to be 100, would you rather have the mind or the body of your prime self?
Oh, the mind,
Okay.
absolutely.
Your favorite holiday?
We'll let you answer it, but there's our timer.
Thanksgiving, because I did not grow up with that in Brazil. We don't have Thanksgiving, so I love that day just to pause and be thankful.
I love it. Awesome.
Didn't do so well in this story, I'm sure. I like to take my
we
time.
appreciated the in-depth answers.
Yeah, we had depth in our answers. That was good.
Love it. I know we said we were done. I do have one more question. I'm just super curious. In terms of the plan moving forward for Peixoto, are you guys happy with your location? Are there plans to continue to grow and expand, or do you guys plan to keep it how it is for now?
So I'm glad you asked that because we are expanding. So we have a second location in the works. We've had that for a long time. It's something we've been working on for the last 3 years, actually. But it's finally coming to life later this year. So
That's awesome.
We're putting together architectural plans, design plans, and we're expecting to open our second location in January of 2022 in Gilbert. So not too far from here.
Yeah.
It's going to be at Epicenter, which is part of the Agritopia development.
Oh,
so
awesome.
part of the Johnston's family development. It's going to be a great space with all sorts of local entrepreneurs, the best of Arizona, as Joe says, at the lower level, and then residential on top. So we're very excited to be in that community.
That's super exciting. Yeah, good luck on that process. We're excited to follow your journey and see how things go throughout that next year. And why don't you let our listeners know where they can find you guys, either online, social media, as well as in person if they want to come try out some of your awesome coffee.
Awesome. So our retail location is in downtown Chandler. We're located on the corner of Boston and Arizona Avenue, where everything else is in downtown Chandler, across the street from City Hall. That's our retail location where we have espresso, kegged beverage, coffee, cold brewed coffee, hot coffees, all the beautiful seasonal beverage that you're referencing earlier today are there for you to enjoy. We're also serving curbside still, so if you are not comfortable coming in, you can place an order online at orders.peixotocoffee.com and we'll bring it out to you, or you can just quickly pick up at our shop. We also have wholesale going strong in the background, so we love to partner with local businesses that are looking for a coffee program. Big and small, we have customers that are small coffee shops all the way to large office corporate customers that need coffee for their employees, for those companies that are bringing employees back, let us know. We'd love to help with coffee. And then we also have e-commerce. So for those of you who are not local to Gilbert or Chandler, you can order your coffee bags online at peixotocoffee.com. And we have actually created a special code for your listeners. If you use the code LOCALHustlers10, you will get 10% off your coffee bags. So that's the little special we have going on.
Love it.
We ship all over the country as well, if you have
Wow.
listeners in other parts of the country.
Awesome. Good to know. Okay, well, Julia, thanks again so much for coming on, sharing your story and the story of Peixoto Company. It's really been fun to learn more about it. So we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come by.
Thank you. Really enjoyed the conversation.
For sure. All right, well, everyone, thanks for listening, and have a good week, and we'll catch you all next time. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. Just a few things before we go. First off, if you or someone you know is an entrepreneur in the East Valley, we'd love to have you on the show. Please get in touch with us by emailing us at localhustlerspodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at localhustlerspodcast. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for the latest news and updates. Also, if you enjoyed the show, please take a few seconds to rate and review and hit that subscribe button. It lets us know how we're doing and helps us grow so we can reach more locals, entrepreneurs, and help small businesses grow. Thanks, guys.